Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So again, as I said, I will be uploading more videos now, more frequently as I have a little bit more time now. And today's video, I want to bring you a little interesting topic. It is going to be about a specific weather event that may be occurring. It's still very far out, so I don't want to, make even a video that says the possibility for this because it's probably even less than a possibility at this point. And it's something that I briefly mentioned earlier on in my fall outlook, and I didn't foresee, but this does happen every once in a while, these type of storms, and I do believe we can be looking at one occurring into this upcoming late September timeframe. So again, the chances are pretty small. So take this more as a kind of an informative video, potentially more as like so this phenomena can occur. And obviously, if it does, end up actually occurring, I'll keep you guys updated, and I will tell you whether or not to prepare, and tell you what regions of the U.S. will be most impacted by this. So let's start talking right about this. So first off, let me show you what's going on right now. We do have Hurricane Fiona. As of recording, it is a strong Category 4 hurricane. It did blow through Puerto Rico as a Category 1 hurricane. Did do quite a bit of damage. Thankfully, it wasn't yet a powerful Category 4 or stronger, but nonetheless, the damage was done. There was a ton. I mean, I think up to 30 inches of rain in some areas, so that obviously caused quite a bit of flooding, and it's obviously hard to deliver aid there in vast quantities because it is a smaller island, and being an island, it's limited in terms of its resources of how to get even essentials, food and water there, and all has to be shipped or flown in, so the costs are high. But do note, we do have Hurricane Fiona, and it's not a threat for the United States, at least for now. You can see that what it does, it's kind of already drifting towards the north and east, and we do have this powerful storm that I talked about in my previous video. Today, it's delivering quite a bit of severe weather, or potentially severe weather, into the northeast. That will be continuing into tomorrow, and you can see across many areas that actually do need rain, just hopefully nothing, in terms of severe weather, too dangerous. But to notice this thing, once that cold front hits it really starts getting kicked off, and it pretty much avoids anything to do with the United States. But it does start interacting with this cold front, and it kind of intensifies into this very, very strong low pressure system. You could still call it a hurricane. I mean, essentially, it will be a hurricane as it hits portions of Nova Scotia right there. So very strong winds, obviously extremely heavy rain. The winds will definitely be affecting areas like Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut through the weekend, though it will be mainly dry, and you can see maybe some showers getting into extreme portions of eastern Maine, though again, mainly nothing too significant. And do note that there could be some snow on the northern side of this. Again, nothing really in our viewing area, even for my Canadian viewers. I have very few people that live there, and if you do, obviously, you could see a little bit of snow, but I probably do have viewers that live further south and could get impacted by the storm itself. Again, obviously prepare for very strong winds, very heavy rain, though you can see it's pretty quick moving. Thankfully, by Sunday, it is essentially out of there, so that's good, and just maybe a few showers and winds kind of left in its wake. But that's not the storm I'm talking about, and neither is this thing. You can see this is kind of a cluster of shower storms into this upcoming weekend. Again, that kind of does intensify into a pretty decently strong system, but that blows over and dissipates. What we start really focusing on, and there has been already quite a bit of attention brought onto this because there's a lot of weather model watchers, and this has been very consistent across the GFS, the Canadian, the European. It's quite rare that we see such consistency with a tropical storm or hurricane this far out. But notice, we start seeing a storm brewing somewhere around the Caribbean. You can see this one kind of brings it into the Yucatan. And this thing is obviously entering a area of water that is extremely warm. There's going to be really no big threat to this thing in terms of its destabilization potential. It's going to pretty much develop as it wants to. And you can see by next Thursday, so about a week from today, we start seeing this system really batter into Florida, the southeast. You can see, thunderstorms already reaching the coast of the United States by around this time next week, especially Florida. And notice, obviously, this thing being a Gulf, the peak hurricane season, this thing starts intensifying, and it starts intensifying quickly. Obviously, the exact, what category, it's still too far out. The National Hurricane Center does say that this origin, which is still way out across even west, I think east of the Leeward Islands, it does have a 90% chance of developing into a storm. Now, again, that's just a tropical storm. I assume the chances of this developing into a hurricane are high. Now, whether or not it hits the U.S., it's still a little bit, a little bit uncertain. But you could pretty much bet that once it reaches the Gulf Coast here, it's pretty much surrounded by the United States, unless it kind of carefully backs out of here, which probably won't be happening. And notice that it just directly sends straight to the north and east. Obviously, the GFS shows it at a very scary 939 millibars. Definitely potential, right? I mean, the atmosphere, the winds, and the warm waters are going to be all supportive of a very strong storm at this time. And look what we start seeing. So it obviously, makes landfall. That would be very tough if it would for anyone that gets impacted by this. Again, where this makes landfall, could it go for Texas? Yes. Could it hit Louisiana? Yes. Mississippi, Alabama? Yes. For now, I would say that the highest chances, again, given that this thing even does end up hitting the United States, which the chances are still pretty low, but it's obviously best to prepare. You don't want to keep saying chances are low, until this thing's right in front of your face. I would say though the Panhandle of Florida and maybe the little peninsula or the little piece of land Alabama has does seem to be the prime. But again, it could go up just the Florida peninsula itself and hit Tampa or areas northward, or it could again even hit New Orleans. It varies, but the thing is that I would say probably a 40% chance that this thing actually does hit the U.S. at the strength that the GFS is showing it. Obviously, each day they continue showing it. The models, the chances of that go up. Notice at the same time, this thing is barreling into the southeast at again, pretty slow rate, right? So it has a lot of time to deliver quite a bit of damage. It's not pulling a Hurricane Harvey though, where it's just doing a loop in a circle, avoiding catastrophic flooding. But at the same time we have a pretty strong cold front moving in from the north, out ahead of a little system right there. Notice a little bit of scattered showers across Ontario. Across Ontario, eventually pushing into Quebec. And what this does, it's actually very interesting. So look, we have this system. It pulls up right through the northeast again. The exact track of this is still a bit uncertain. Some are showing it into Kentucky, Indiana. Some are showing it again even off the coast once it hits the southeast. But look, if this were to occur and that cold front lines up with this storm, we see the system blow up into some sort of a nor'easter, some sort of a tropical depression. Very enthusiastic storm the GFS has here, right? And granted, it is 318 hours out, so it's very, very far out. The chance of this actually occurring are pretty small, but nonetheless, again, which is why I'm also not really calling for this storm. I'm just showing you this phenomena that could occur. Look, it ends up pivoting into this cold air and actually develops quite a bit of snow across even Vermont, New Hampshire, across big cities, Quebec, especially Quebec, across Canada right here. A lot of a lot of Canadians live in this area. Obviously the winds would be fierce, so a blizzard would probably develop out of that. And you can see that pulls away. So it's just very interesting if this were to occur. And the thing is that this isn't necessarily rare. I've done a video a few weeks ago. I mentioned this earlier on in the video where I went through La Nina years and noticed, I actually even mentioned it in the video because of how prevalent it was. It was a pattern that during La Nina years, there's often hurricanes because it's usually a active hurricane season associated with a La Nina year. And with the active hurricane season, a lot of these storms, just like this hurricane, went up into the United States, interacted with the cold front, and ended up producing a snowstorm. I mean, it's happened before with Hurricane Sandy. It did that very exact thing. I'm sure there's probably many more cases. I just can't think on the top of my head, but I do remember that in the years like 2007, 2008, I think that occurred several times. So the possibility, or I guess the phenomena of this nature is actually not all too uncommon, especially towards the end of the hurricane season when the cold air starts coming through. And it just so turns out, right, that there is a cold front that kind of works in through that area at this time frame and interacts with the storm. Again, right, this part of the storm is very far out. Even when it landfalls, it's still far out. It's entering that long to medium range. But the National Hurricane Center says that this will probably be developing. Whether or not, again, it develops into this massive storm and hits the U.S., it's yet to be seen. But the GFS has been remarkably consistent. So let me go to the morning model and show you again. It showed that system. You can see a little bit more eastward. It did show that little bit of cold air, right? Except it made the system a bit faster. So it quite didn't catch the system right there, that cold air. So it didn't quite produce a snowstorm until it was far north into Canada, still producing a decent amount of showers and activity up there. The noon model run showed the system much further towards the west. You could see Kentucky, Ohio with that rain, not necessarily coastal storm, but it did end up interacting with that storm, producing showers of snow actually in blizzard conditions, but across more of Ontario versus Quebec. So also a very interesting potentially scenario there with some potentially fierce lake effect showers that could be falling as rain or snow. let's go back even further. Yesterday's midnight model run. And let's show this. So again, you can see with every single model run I'm showing you, it shows that hurricane hitting a remarkably similar spot each time. Notice, I mean, it's the same spot now for more than 2 days. And that the models have been showing, especially the GFS. And you can see this one slides it off the northeast coast, spins it away, and never really ends up interacting with anything. Could maybe wash up with a few showers. So the chances of that phenomena actually occurring are low with this. They're definitely there, especially since it has been trending towards that. But, you know, the actual hurricane, I would say, is higher. I do believe that once it does develop, which Hurricane Center gives it a 90% chance into a tropical storm, the odds of it developing into a hurricane, especially if it's in the Gulf of Mexico, are rather substantial, right? And whether or not it gets as strong as it show it, the models, and specifically where it does hit, that's where things start getting a lot more iffy. So again, let's go back to now September 20th. You could see that it did show that storm again. So this is now, you know, 1.5 days, 2 days ago, and it still showed that storm at a remarkably similar spot, the Florida Panhandle right there with Alabama. And it did, you can see, move it towards the north, but it quickly got sheared out and never interacted with any cold front. So that's also a possibility. However, let me go and show you some other models, just to give you a bit more confidence that the GFS isn't in this by itself. So there's Fiona. You can see Fiona with that cold front interacts, produces a nasty storm across Nova Scotia, Labrador, Newfoundland, extreme eastern portions of Canada into this upcoming weekend. And then there's that tropical storm or hurricane, whatever you want to call it. You can see that the European does develop it into a pretty strong storm, and just basing this off the millibars, that would be probably a hurricane of at least some category. But you can see it hits the Panhandle, or sorry, actual Peninsula Florida. You're impacting more of Tampa Bay versus the Panhandle. So obviously, with this trajectory, it could potentially intensify once it exits. It enters into the Carolinas. Whether or not it actually interacts with a cold front, there is a little bit of cold air here. Chances are probably a bit lower, but you can see the European only goes out to 240. But it's showing this system, and it too has been consistent for quite a while. You can see yesterday's midnight model run also showed this system, and you can see the Europeans, it really more targeting the Florida peninsula rather than the Panhandle itself. And then you can see this is also not really anything optimal, because you can see it hits Florida, causes, you know, problems, it moves up into this little pocket right here, continues intensifying or just stays strong, and again it enters and hits the United States. And with this track, you know, if it at least for a few days stays here and cold air comes down, we could see some sort of a system developing, except we don't really see any cold air up here. So that's something that's just interesting. Let's go to the latest model run of the Canadian. So this is another model I like to look at. Again, all of them are showing a system. You can see the Canadian taking more of what GFS shows, a track of that's more westward oriented. Still a powerful storm, not nearly as strong as what the GFS and European show, but still definitely there. So let's see, the chances of an actual hurricane storm in the Gulf of Mexico in the vicinity of the United States next week are pretty high. Whether or not it hits the United States, that's medium, and where it hits is low. And then the fact that it could turn into that snowstorm is very low. But obviously, it's just something that I couldn't refuse to show you, and I thought it was really cool, because if it were to occur at the same level that the GFS is showing with its latest model run, then, you know, that could be something quite remarkable. And you can see right there, it develops into this, I mean, absolutely massive storm. It just blows up across the northeast, very strong winds, very heavy rain, and then produces a blizzard. And obviously, let's take a look at the total accumulated precipitation from that. That would be very, very high. Not necessarily the worst case scenario for the northeast. I mean, they are really dry across those areas. It's during a drought, so that's actually something they might actually want, just maybe without the extremely strong winds. And then total snowfall, I don't believe it goes out as far to show us that. Yeah, it doesn't. But you could assume it brings several inches, if not even up to a foot, across portions of Quebec there with such moisture-laden atmosphere. And let's just take a look at the mean sea level pressure of the system. You can see it's an absolute bomb. I mean, it's a strong hurricane according to the GFS when it hits the land, and then it, you know, maintains its strength decently enough to where it easily intensifies when it goes again over the waters and really forms into an impressive storm. Nonetheless, this is definitely something, you know, you'll be hearing a lot about, as way more than Fiona, as this thing potentially is a lot more dangerous, stronger as it hits the land, and has a lot more people in its path. And yeah, we'll have to wait and see as we start heading into next week with this nasty storm. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. That's basically it for today's video. I'll catch you all in the next episode. See ya. Bye.